Hi, I'm Lucas,
And I'm Brian.
and this is the Quax podcast. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. Brian, how's it going, my man?
It's good, man. This is surreal everything's surreal right now, but this is really odd doing it on phone and not being here live with you.
Yeah, we're doing a Skype call instead of our normal in-person podcast. Brian, you kind of chose to really kind of go hardcore and kind of quarantine yourself off.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've taken it to the umpth degree for sure. Part of it being that I've got a kid and a kind of a step kid that I don't want to bring them anything. I don't want to. So I've really locked down on staying away from a lot of folks, trying to do my part, man.
Yeah, dude, it's totally understandable. What are you doing for work? Like, are you still going to your job, or?
I'm not taking a leave.
I
So
mean, are you going to be able to survive? I mean, do you get income on a leave, or?
No, you don't. You just roll the dice, So worst case scenario, I die alone in a huddle of leaves in the backyard. Best case scenario, this thing is all cleaned up and people are getting a better understanding of how this is being transmitted and how better ways to prevent it. And I can be back at work here shortly.
Yeah, I mean, I really hope that we figure out some solution. I mean, like, I've been pounding the drum on IV vitamin C, and I heard China just like imported millions of pounds or kilos of vitamin C for IVs. So I think that's an awesome solution.
And before because we have a clinic in the store and they're shut down. They shut down. That was kind of the final straw for me when they're like, we're gonna pump the brakes and close up the clinic here for a few weeks. And they were so alarmed, and they're medical professionals, naturopathic doctors. So I heeded their further warning, and it just was kind of alarming how this has spread, and USA has become kind of the epicenter. Not that Arizona is a real bad place for it right now, but man, there's just a lot of things to consider, elderly family members that you don't want to bring it home to and all that stuff. So yeah, it was just a decision based on the greater good.
Well, I hope that we figure out a way to handle it, and I think it's smart what we're doing, but a lot of people don't understand how an exponential function works, and so it could be that in a couple weeks, like we're going. Remember, we read that tweet I think a few podcasts ago about how an exponential function works, how a doubling in cases every 6 days really, like, all of a sudden just sneaks up on you, like how bad it is. So
right.
Yeah, I hope that doesn't happen. I hope we figure out that there's solutions. And there are people who are saying things like vitamin C and zinc online. So I think pragmatism is.
I'm hearing the vitamin C all over the place. And I started that's where I was telling you too, before I got distracted by my own hubris, is the doctors were doing high dose vitamin C for a lot of people for immunofunction. And that was a lot of the information that was coming out of not only China, but Italy. Working with high dose vitamin C and in conjunction with aminos like L-glutathione and L-lysine and creatine. So yeah, no, I'm doing all of this stuff, and I'm bolstering my immune system daily. And I mean, I'm sure you've got to have some concerns. I don't know where you're falling on the spectrum, but you are of the diabetic nature too. So they're saying that's more of a high risk deal as well. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I have an autoimmune, type 1 diabetes, got it when I was 12, yada yada. But I'm not too worried. I mean, maybe it sounds a little cocky of me, but I never get sick. Like, I haven't been sick in years, and I don't know what it is, but whenever I feel anything coming on, I just pound a bunch of stuff, and I'm okay. I mean, I'm not saying that this is no big deal, but I just feel confident that on an individual basis, this isn't that much of a worry. On a societal basis, it definitely is a worry.
Financially, more than anything. I mean, not
Totally.
to say that the loss of life isn't a big deal, but I mean, the financial overtones are going to be felt for a long, long time.
Yeah. Well, let's stop talking about this because I'm sure people are just totally inundated
sick
with
of it.
this. They're sick of it. Yeah, they're tired of it already. They're
No pun intended.
They want to be entertained. So Let's
Well,
entertain them.
I've been juggling the whole time, so I don't know how that translates to a podcast, but I'm juggling, and now I've got 4 tennis balls, 3 of which are on fire. So let them be entertained.
You're a very talented individual, Brian.
More of a visual medium.
All right, so today
Thank you.
have.
Let's get to it, bro.
Yeah, I got a news articles from Merkala that I wanted to share. And this might be kind of a tough subject for some people. Sometimes we have shows that are joking shows. Sometimes we have serious shows. This definitely falls into the serious category. And I figured with all the COVID
we started
news,
that way. We kind of started that way too. So yeah, I guess I didn't help with it.
we're going to another level on seriousness. We're going even deeper.
Okay.
And I also figured, people are at home. They have plenty of time to reflect on subjects like this. So the title of the Merkala article is "Childhood Stress Can Make You Ill as an Adult." So we're going to dive into this. And I know we've talked about stress before, and it's kind of like, yeah, everyone knows stress is bad, but I got bills to pay. This article drills down into childhood stress in particular and what that looks like. All right?
Okay.
So in 1998, there was a large study on what are called ACEs, or Adverse Childhood Experiences. They surveyed over 13,000 people and asked them questions about their childhood. The common ACE test, it has 10 questions or so, 5 of which are about your personal experience, and 5 of which are about your family members.
Okay.
These questions, they're designed to give you like a rough estimation of childhood stress across a population of people. Now, before we go into the rest of the study, I thought it would be kind of enlightening or fun, probably not fun, but enlightening to kind of go over these questions so that you could figure out your own ACE score, you and the audience. So how it works is I'm going to read 10 questions. If the answer is yes, you get a point. If the answer is no, you get no points. And at the end, you're going to have a number between 0 and 10, and that's going to be your ACE score. All right?
Okay.
And one caveat, this is not a comprehensive test. It's more of a guideline. Sometimes you might have a score of 4, but they were all mild stressors, while other people can have like a score of 1, and it's like a very severe stressor. So it's just a guideline. There's individual variance.
You're going to give me the test right now? Is that what's happening?
I'm going to read the 10 questions, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's stuff on here that's not covered too, like chronic illness and that kind of thing.
Right.
All right, here are the questions. 1, did a parent or adult in the household often or very often swear at you, insult you, put you down, or humiliate you, or act in a way that made you afraid that you might be physically hurt? 2, did a parent or other adult in the household often or very often push, grab, slap, or throw something at you, or ever hit you so hard that you had marks or were injured? Number 3, did an adult or person at least 5 years older than you ever touch or fondle you, or have you touched their body in a sexual way, or attempt to actually have oral, anal, or vaginal intercourse with you? 4, did you often or very often feel that no one in your family loved you or thought you were important or special, or your family didn't look out for each other, feel close to each other, or support each other? 5, did you often or very often feel that you didn't have enough to eat, had to wear dirty clothes, and had no one to protect you, or your parents were too drunk or high to take care of you, or take you to the doctor if you needed it? 6, were your parents ever separated or divorced? 7, was your mother or stepmother often or very often pushed, grabbed, slapped, or had something thrown at her, or sometimes often or very often kicked, bitten, hit with a fist, or hit with something hard, or ever repeatedly hit over the head at least a few minutes, or threatened with a gun or knife? I should say...
Good Lord.
I should say that
this is heavy.
That should probably include men too. Number 8, did you live with anyone who was a problem drinker or alcoholic, or who used street drugs? Number 9, was a household member depressed or mentally ill, or did a household member attempt suicide? Number 10, did a household member go to prison? All right, that was fun.
Oh my gosh, dude. I'm stressed just from hearing the test questions.
Yeah, I told you it was going to be a little heavy.
Wow. I mean, that makes coronavirus look like a tame. Can we go back to talking about that?
Yeah, that's what I'm.
Yeah, that's heavy.
That's what I'm trying to do. Is I'm trying to lighten the load by making it a lot darker.
Well, I mean, I could say yes to several of those.
Yeah. Do you have a score in your head?
What was the number? Or the number? Can you go through the number sequence again?
Like 1 through 10.
Okay, so
So
No, I didn't really tally it in real time. I was just
Brian,
dumbfounded by the questions.
that was the whole point. We were supposed to count them off, and you were supposed to like say, okay, I have that one, and then you get a score in your head.
Okay. I thought I was supposed to score each one to 10. I got a little confused. I was like, I'm not like, no, I would definitely say that there was half of them. So 5.
5. Okay. So, what did the 1998 study find, right? They found a dose-dependent relationship between ACE scores and future health problems and risky behaviors. So people who had a score of 4 or more had a 4 to 12-fold increased risk of alcoholism, drug abuse, depression, and suicide attempts.
Wow.
A 2 to 4 increase in smoking, poor self-related health, more than 50 sexual partners and STDs, and lastly, a 1.4 to 1.6-fold increase in physical activity and severe obesity. So yeah, really nice.
Yeah. That makes sense, though. I mean, these things stay with us forever,
Yeah.
evidently.
And there's always that saying that, kids are tough, like
they're resilient.
They're resilient.
They can do it.
Yeah, that's the saying. But I don't actually think that's correct. I think more it's that it's delayed. The problems pop up later.
Right. It's all making sense.
The question is, how does this happen? And how does it happen in our bodies that this occurs? So it has to do with stress hormones, particularly cortisol and adrenaline. So when your life is calm and predictable, the body builds up muscles, bones, and stores energy for a rainy day. It also performs cellular regeneration, and it keeps its immune system strong to fight infection. And for a kid, the body fuels mental and physical growth with the extra resources.
Okay. Right.
However, when bad things happen, which cause pain, instability, fear, adrenaline and cortisol start kicking into gear. These hormones spike your blood sugar. They make your heart beat a lot harder. They break down your tissues to use as like quick fuel. And if the danger passes and the hormones go down, your body kind of builds those back up so you can recover easily. But if those hormones are chronically elevated, you start to really run into problems.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. Total sense.
All right.
I don't think anything's made more sense.
So this is kind of why I think, and this is just my opinion, the more chronic the nature of your ACE score, probably the worse it is. Like a spike in stress hormones once is not good, obviously, but it's far more preferred than just like a constant elevation over many years, which is what a lot of kids go through.
It's terrible.
Dr. Lisa Rankin, the author of Mind Over Medicine, she had a great quote on this subject. She said, "Our bodies know how to fix broken proteins, kill cancer cells, retard aging, and fight infection. They even know how to heal ulcers, make skin lesions disappear, and knit together broken bones. But here's the kicker. Those natural self-repair mechanisms don't work if you're stressed."
That makes complete sense. I mean, if you're in a state of stress, how could they?
Yeah. It also kind of ties into Ray Peat's stuff and his whole framework of the body. Do things...
Refresh me.
Yeah, so like do things and change your environment to lower cortisol, serotonin, and adrenaline while increasing the hormones that build you up, like thyroid and progesterone.
Yeah, it all starts in childhood. Everything.
What I kind of have found in helping people in health food stores who have a wide variety of health problems is kind of getting people on the right side of that equation. You have the catabolic stress hormones tearing you down and the anabolic hormones building you up. Most people who come into the health food store, and you tell me if I'm right about this, or even people who work in a health food store, to be honest, they're kind of on the wrong side of that curve. Their stress hormones dominate their ability to rejuvenate and renew. And by making the changes to your environment and your diet and your mental state, you can kind of lower those things that are tearing you down and encourage the things that are building you up. And 80% of the time, this will fix whatever problem you're dealing with over a long enough time horizon. Our bodies are just incredibly good at healing if you give them a chance.
Yeah, it's miraculous, some might say.
So what are your thoughts, man? Because I'm talking a lot, but I feel like you have something to say.
No, I'm just the funny thing is, as you talk about this, I'm just recounting all the systematic or all the things that have happened to me, throughout my childhood. That mean, I was like going, "Arr," as you were asking those questions, and I was going, well, I do have that. I've got that. I've got that. And then you equated it to the numbers of, substance abuse or, suicide or depression or, stress conditions, all that stuff. And yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense in my head why I might be dealing with certain things. And obviously, we always try to get to the root of the issue and look back on our childhood to find those things. But that just brought it in clear vision. That was just amazing.
Yeah,
How
I mean,
simplified it
I
was.
don't know. In your opinion, do you think you can get over these things?
I do, but I think that recognizing that this is the reason that you're having these issues is a huge part of it. But it's people coming to terms with that and dealing with their past and making peace with it or whatever they're having to do to get over it. But I definitely think that you can. But a lot of people don't even want to look at that stuff. They just brush it, or stuff it. So I can see that being an issue. And then obviously that spills over into their relationships in adulthood. So
Yeah.
it's just the patterns repeating themselves. But yes, I definitely, I believe that people, I know that the old adage is people can't change, but I refute that. I think that people change every day. And I definitely think it's something that people can overcome.
I think the same thing. I do. I think people can overcome it, but I think it is difficult. I mean, sometimes it's not.
Oh, totally difficult.
It's stressful to do. So if you're already under, a bunch of stress, then taking on more stress to kind of get over that stress is difficult. And sometimes it's not worth it to people. And sometimes they're right. Sometimes it's like, hey, man, your life is hard enough. You got to just keep barreling through and let everything bite you at the end.
Right. And especially as people have moved from childhood to adolescence to adulthood, and then have kids of their own, and hopefully aren't repeating these patterns, because that seems to be so prevalent with conditions like this, or people dealing with stress, and that they go back to these things that they knew or they thought that they knew, even if these are things that they said that they would never do, and it molded them in a negative way from their childhood. They find themselves repeating it. So that is part of the culprit, I think, is it's a never-ending spiral.
Yeah. One other aspect of the article I wanted to mention was obesity. There was a study and treatment plan for obesity out of this place called Kaiser Permanente's Department of Preventative Medicine in San Diego, California. And they attempted to help people who were obese to lose weight. And they had this counterintuitive finding where obese people were actually threatened by the aspect of losing weight. Dr. Vincent Felitti, he was a part of the original ACE study in 1998. He actually commented on this obesity study, and this is what he said. He said, we came to realize that obesity, a major public health problem from a societal standpoint, was from the involved patient's standpoint often an unconsciously chosen solution to unrecognized traumatic life experiences that were lost in time and further protected by shame, secrecy, and social taboos against exploring certain realms of human experience.
Whoa.
So what he's basically saying is that obesity has this component of childhood trauma that really has nothing to do with like the calories in, calories out model, that they go on. In fact, in that same study, the doctor is commenting on something like 55% of the patients suffered childhood sexual abuse, which if you think about it, is absolutely insane.
It's crazy.
Like if you pick 1,000 people off the street, you might get sexual abuse rates in the single digits, right?
Yes.
So the fact that more than half of the patients in this obesity study had suffered sexual abuse should tell you that there's some kind of strong link between the childhood trauma and later adult obesity.
Yes, and I'm lucky that I was able to dodge. That was one of the bullets that I did dodge in childhood. But I can't even tell you, and I don't mean to be telling tales out of school, how many girlfriends or women that I've dated that have experienced that. I mean, like the majority. And then seeing how that plays a part on society as a whole when you've got a bunch of people who are dealing with that. It's staggering. It's actually really crazy to think how that completely molds and affects not only our lives, but everyone's lives around us, because we're affecting that. So yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Well, and I also think about what we tell like obese people like how they can solve their problems, a lot of those things just increase stress hormones anyway. They say they're good for you. Like I'm thinking cryotherapy, fasting, even some adaptogenic herbs like ginseng or eleuthero. I've mentioned it before, but stress hormones feel good when you first get a hit of them. They make you feel alive. They focus your attention. They give you energy and movement. But over time, they break you down. So I think part of what happens is some of the things that we tell the people who are these chronically stressed people is it's like, do this thing that's stressful and that'll make it better. And it kind of does. And then they get off of it and then they feel like they failed and they feel like, oh, this is impossible. I'm just forever, stuck in this cycle. But it's like, no, the prescription was wrong. They're telling you to be more stressed when you need to be less stressed.
Well, see that argument, also, I mean, the fact that they always say that exercise, which is obviously stress on the body, but somehow alleviates stress within the mind or the spirit or whatever. I've known a lot of people who have changed behavioral traits or tried to, mend things that had happened in their childhood with exercise, and not just a little bit. I'm talking like crazy exercise where they're got to be stressing themselves out, but in the long run, it helps them emotionally. But when they get out of that exercise cycle, then it all comes back.
Interesting.
Yes. Or I mean, at least with some people. So, it's such a slippery slope.
And stress hormones definitely make you feel better too for a while. I mean, they will blunt the emotional impact of your past. So
Is that endorphins? What is that? What's that attributed to?
Yeah, endorphins. Endorphins are like a semi-stress hormone. They're like an opiate, and they're not as stressful as like adrenaline and cortisol, but you could kind of lump them into the same thing.
Wow, man.
Anyway, that's all I had for this week. I mean, short show.
No, it was good, and it's been such a crazy time right now, and everyone's just trying to wrap their head around it. So it's nice to have these little morsels, but I'm so happy that you provided me with this, because I'm taking this test again when we get off the phone so I can make a more accurate count of my internal struggles.
All right. Sounds good. Yeah. I think my score is around a 4 or 5 too. So you're in good company. All
right, good. We'll have to hash it out.
Hey, I just want to mention
where we go from here.
I just want to mention before we get off, azithromycin is one of the treatments for COVID, and that was one of the top antibiotics we had on the antibiotic show.
That is.
Yeah. Isn't that cool?
That was one of the good ones. Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah. I don't know about chloroquine. Chloroquine seems very toxic, but if you're dying from the COVID, then that might be worth it.
I mean, that was a crazy story of that couple though that had just gotten that stuff.
Oh my gosh.
Unfortunately, I know. But I was like, who? Part of me is like, what? Why? You're an idiot, and that sounds terrible. But I'm like, based on the recommendation of who? What YouTube channel or what president or who?
Yeah, so the story was this couple read a tweet that recommended that they take, azithromycin and chloroquine. And so, but it was hydroxychloroquine, I believe.
Right.
But what they thought is that any chloroquine would work. And so they went and got chloroquine phosphate.
Phosphate.
Yes, which is like used to clean fish ponds or something like that.
It was for their koi pond. They had it left over because they had a koi pond.
And they took that. I mean, that's pretty next level. That's a Darwin Award right there.
It's not good. And the woman survived, but the gentleman did not. But I mean, that takes some cojones to just go give this a shot based on a tweet.
Yeah, I do experiments all the time, and I'm not that dumb.
No, you're thoroughly researched, but that's also why you're in such a specimen of good immunity and never get sick, because you're trying all these things.
Exactly. Yes. All right, let's wrap it up. Thanks for listening, guys. Quaxpodcast.com.
Thanks, guys.
Be well.
Be well. Jinx Omega.